Breaking, Letitia James is looking for an off-ramp. Letitia James wants out of her job as Attorney General of New York. And it's probably because Letitia James knows that the case that made her so famous against Donald Trump, that actually helped get her elected. Don't forget, this is what she campaigned on, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that case is about to get reversed, and it's going to get reversed by the appeals court there in the state of New York. I'm going to explain why, but first, know what's going down with Letitia at this moment in time. Here we are, Letitia James, looking for that off-ramp, because you see there's this guy who's the mayor right now,
How are you?
Mayor Adams, and Mayor Adams is now being indicted on 5 different counts, including bribery, wire fraud, conspiracy. He did speak out pretty aggressively against the Biden administration and the efforts to bring more and more migrants into the city of New York, and I don't think that necessarily ingratiated him with people. So, I'm just, this is a little bit of conjecture, but let's just say he was not on the most favorite Dem list. Letitia, however, they love her. I mean, they cannot get enough of Letitia James. After all, this is a woman who campaigned on getting Trump. Remember?
Your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Okay, you get the picture. We can watch a little bit more later. But Letitia James is, by the way, a radical who totally took the law into her own hands and went wild with one of the statutes, using it in a way that, frankly, has never been used before. And now the appeals court is calling her out. So now Letitia needs a new gig. Well, lo and behold, Eric Adams on his way out, so why not put her up as mayor? That's the latest and greatest on the New York Times. They're talking about putting Letitia James in as mayor. With Eric Adams' future now in jeopardy, why not bring in Letitia? So this particular article that I'm showing you, if you're watching live on YouTube, thank you. Great to have you here. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you for that. Spotify Podcasts, thank you for that. That's the audio version of the show. Make sure you go and rate us 5 stars only, please. But this, what you're looking at here, is the latest from the New York Times. And they're saying that she is going to be running for mayor of New York City. So a couple things going on here. One, the woman needs an exit plan, because you know what? She's going to have egg on her face in a massive way. She already does. Wait until you see the sound. I went through just out the sound that came from that appellate court just the other day, and I'm going to play for you what the judges are saying to the Solicitor General who's repping Letitia there, repping the state of New York, and they're like, whoa, this is crazy. How do we actually put guardrails in to prevent something like this from happening in the future? That's going to come out momentarily. I would guess probably in the next 15 to 20 days. So that reversal is out there. So what does she do then? I mean, could she get disbarred? If you get disbarred, can you still run for office? I guess you can. Oh, wow. Okay, so Letitia is kind of in a situation here. She needs to find a new gig. And so, the whole campaigning against Trump thing, that may not have panned out how she had anticipated, just because of where the court is on this one. And the court's not with her. Not with her at all. I got to show you this sound. But before I do, as things are so crazy right now, keep in mind, there's a way to help shield yourself just a little bit from the craziness, or at least from all the inflation that we see, and that would be through a diversified portfolio. And for me anyway, that diversification includes gold. I actually hold gold in my portfolio because I see it as a way to balance out some of that inflation risk, balance out the crazy risk, etc., and also balance out the risk that, people are diversifying away from the U.S. In fact, just this week, we learned that Poland now has more gold reserves than the UK, and they're very proud of that. I think that a lot of countries around the world are moving increasingly into gold. As I look at gold in the market today, it's up slightly. You can get gold too. Go over and see our friends, my friends over at American Heart for Gold. You can text my name to get the best deal. In fact, up to $15,000 of free silver with qualifying offers. If you text Trish to 65532, text my name Trish to 65532, up to $15,000 in free silver. Call 1-844-495-1115, 1-844-495-1115. And how can I forget? Go to Trish Loves Gold. You can't forget that, right? TrishLovesGold.com. TrishLovesGold.com. Anyway, here we are looking at Letitia possibly fleeing her job I mean, this is the report. Let me share with you. Apparently 5 sources have told the New York Times that she's looking to position herself as the next mayor of New York. So Trump actually sort of, in this case, depending on how you look at it, he could be winning again here, because you know what? That case is going to get reversed momentarily, and she's going to be forced out as AG. Now, she's going to move over into the political sphere, of course, because that's who she is. She's a political animal. She's a rabid political animal. You have only to look at all of the campaigning that she did, promising to get Trump to really, I think, become rather alarmed, because, you know, whatever happened to due process? I mean, this is pretty wild. And this is what the court is concluding. And this is how I know this, you know, and I'm not just making it up. Of course, I thought that the case was absolutely bonkers from the start. I've been a business reporter my entire career. I've never seen anything like this. And then I've certainly never seen anything like the nearly $500 million fine that Judge Arthur Erdogan put on Donald Trump. I mean, bonkers stuff, right? But this is why we have appellate courts. It's just shameful, and the court knows this. It's shameful that it has to get to this, ladies and gentlemen. So the court right now, as we speak, is preparing to reverse this case. That's going to happen in a matter of days. It's getting closer and closer to the election, of course. Would have been nice if they could have figured this all out way ahead of time, right? But anyway, let me go here to the Solicitor General who got up to speak. Some of you have seen this already. Justice David Friedman cuts her off before she even has a minute to speak. At issue here, the state is alleging that Donald Trump inflated his assets, including, say, the square footage at Mar-a-Lago or on Trump Tower, in order to get a better deal with lenders. But typically, if you're going to sue here, it would be because there's some damages. But in this case, you had 2 really sophisticated parties, one of which was Deutsche Bank, a very famous investment bank out of Germany that has operations in New York, and they were running the whole deal there. So Trump said, oh, well, Mar-a-Lago's worth this. And they said, okay, Mar-a-Lago's worth that. And they lent him the money using Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower as collateral. So Letitia's alleging that he somehow got away with murder, so to speak. He got some kind of great deal because he inflated the value of his real estate holdings. Of course, it was up to Deutsche Bank to do its due diligence and figure out whether or not Mar-a-Lago was worth what he suggested it was worth. Letitia has it somewhere around, what, 14 million? 18 million? I mean, it's pretty crazy. So this starts to come out. You can hear the anger in the justices' voices. I want to play for you as this Solicitor General, last name is Vale, gets up to speak. She can't even get a word out, and the justice is all over her.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated—
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Bingo. Okay, so I've gone through this as well, and I've looked at some of the cases that she cited, and she looks at Lehman Brothers, and she looks at an accounting firm, and all of these had really broader implications, right, for the consumer as a whole. In this particular case, there were only 2 parties involved. It was Deutsche Bank and it was Donald Trump. So why is Letitia James getting in the middle of this, and why is Judge Arthur Erdogan saying, okay, I'm going to get in the middle of it too, and I'm going to charge you $500 million, other than for one reason and one reason only, and we know what it is. It's politics. It's just sheer politics.